So, hello students, Philippine Politics and Governance. For week number 4, let's now clear some things or let's update the lesson week number 4 in Philippine Politics and Governance under power. So, in analyzing the politics, we have three types of power in our constitution or in the government. First, we have the uh, police power. Second, we have the power of eminent domain. And third, we have the power of taxation. So, those three powers we're going to discuss them here in brief and detailed manner. So first, we know that power. It is all about the authority of an individual in a certain government or an authority or control to influence the constituents, no, particularly when we put it in politics. So when we say power, so every politicians or those who are being elected in public offices have power to convene their duties or obligations when it comes to laws, when it comes to their policies, no, that are they going to implement, di ba? But here in power, di ba, mas lalo na ngayon napapanahon in the election 2022 and even the power of the people, lalo na sa mga issue na kinaharap ng gobyerno natin sa kasalukuyang pandemic period, no? But this power is such legitimate manner when using in a political terms, no? Which is hindi na siya power na okay, if you have the position, you have the power or authority, but power is being written or being legitimated according to our constitution. And power here is really compulsory or it involves compulsion, which is it's not necessary and it is mandatory for the people to obey, for us Filipino citizens or the state to obey what the government are implying us to do so. No? So let's begin is with this, no? How power is being exercised. Okay, we have three exercises of power. First, we have the power as decision making. Of course, in politics, there's always an involvement of decision making or the process of empowering or enforce decisions to the public. First of all, power is really literally powerful because a certain power of a person is a force or mutual gain. There's an obligation, loyalty, or commitment. Like this in the example, because power can be like it is a big deal for everyone if you really obey a certain law. And which involves decision making over time. Hindi lang naman kasi pag nagbasa ng law or the power itself, it is really real quick that power will be implemented. But it takes time or the process, di ba? So power is like a decision making where leaders are empowered to make decisions and force decisions. For instance, in the executive branch of our government, no, the president, the vice president, the cabinet members. So the president is taking time to have decision making in execution of law by it's like implementing of law, no? Pinipirmahan niya kasi yung mga orders or ordinances, bills and the laws, no, to be implemented or imposed, no, to the public. Okay, before nailabas yan, no, and obey by the people. Pangalawang exercise of power is the power as agenda setting. Okay? Power can be used to prevent the making of decisions or non-decision making. Obviously, power is also like a thought control, no? By means of power, no, pwedeng mapadali eh. No, wants, needs, or kung kailangan na ba. The example natin dito yung bayanihan na heal, heal one act, heal as one act, di ba? When the pandemic started last year, 2020, agaran na yan. The control to the public, the protocols, di ba, when it comes to the MECQ, GCQ, the guidelines, no, for the people to not let go outside the vicinity of their places. Diba? Ilan yung sa mga thought control na pinag-isipan at pinaghahandaan. Then dyan ng IATF, Interagency Task Force, no, to prevent the spreading of virus, COVID-19. So the government is there, di ba, to control the forces responsible for that issue, di ba? And the Department of Health, etc., etc. So power is being exercised. No, like there should be a capacity of a person, no, to command, no, those people, no, outside the government, di ba? So ganyan ka powerful yung power. Because hindi lang decision making, no, nasusundin ka ng lahat in your constituent, but also it's all about personal interest or how can you apply for the common good na tinatawag natin, no? Para sa kabutihan ng lahat. Alright. So, nabanggit ko kanina, we have three inherent powers of the state. We have police power, PNP, Philippine National Police. Here's the eminent domain when it comes to public resources or public, mamaya explain natin. And then taxation, of course, is all about taxes. Okay. And when you say power of the state, no, it is the inherent to the state and may be exercised by it without need of constitutional grant. Because kasi nga may separate PNP, why is it inherent to the state? And it is necessary and indispensable methods by which the state interferes with private rights. Each has equivalent compensation for the private rights interfered with them. So yan, ito lang yung mga background question natin and similarities. So pag-uusapan natin yan to go along to each power. Okay? So una natin dito class is ayan pala, may limitations pala. So, according to the Article 3, Section 1 Bill of Rights of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, that each must exercise according to the stated principles in Bill of Rights. So, syempre, hindi lang basta dapat nauabuso yung mga power na yan given to the authorities who are responsible to implement those powers. Diba? Una, right to life, liberty, and property. There should be a due process of law. Diba? There should be a due process which will not interfere or create problem with the right to life, liberty, and property. Kailangan dumaan lahat sa process. Parang, yun nga yung according sa Article 3, hindi dapat ma-dominate ng isang power or magkaroon ng unfair or injustice thing that will happen, diba, on a certain policy or law. Sunod naman natin dito, the subject at all times to the limitations and requirements of the Constitution and may in proper cases be annulled by the court if there is a grave abuse of discretion. Alright, so a possibility that power can be if there's an abuse of the police power. But for example natin na lang dito is yung nangyari dun sa last year, December, di ba, yung police brutality. Diba, pero nabigyan na ng sentence yun na parang double murder yung case, yung sinampang kaso o yung guilt, di ba, doon. And sometimes ganun talaga yung mangyayari if the court will find or the Constitution will declare the powers enforced by those inherent powers of the state can be annulled because of the grave abuse nga na tinatawag natin. Sunod natin dito, unahin na natin ang first power of the state, which is the police power. It is very relevant now, no, lalo na yung natin, di ba, yung the issue why the PNP or the police powers nagkaroon sila ng di ba, doble yung sahod nila. Nagkaroon ng salary increase. So, anong katwiran? Bakit daw nagkaroon ng salary increase yung mga police? Bakit yung mga nurse, bakit yung mga teacher, hindi sila nagkaroon? Bakit yung mga police lang? If we see the global picture and the reality of life in politics in the Philippines, diba? Ilan lang yung mga police powers. Their forces are very limited. They are just short numbers, diba? And by teachers and nurses, there are many of them. Taon-taon may teacher, taon-taon may nurses. There are many of them. But now, for the security of our country, diba, our president is very focused on the security of military to strengthen the forces, diba, ng police power ng Pilipinas. And that's why that can be also related to the corruption, no? Para hindi naman corrupt yung mga police, kasi kita asama yung sahod nila, diba, something like that. And also, this police power is given to the police forces, particularly the PNP, diba, sabi nga dito, it is the inherent power of the state to regulate liberty and property for the promotion of the general welfare. Sino bang nagpo-protect sa security and military of the Filipino citizens? So there are the PNP, no, securing the general welfare for the safety and security of the country. So this is these are the authorities no involved in the imposition of the police power, the PNP, and other institutions or organization involved there, no. And according to this power, is always focusing on liberty and property. Diba? The democratic, is it really affecting the human rights of the people? Crimes, violation against the law, violation against the safety of the people and the property also, no? And as who exercises the government and the compensation is the promotion of general welfare. So that is the main point why there's the police power. I know it's just a common sense, diba, for for that to ano 'no. And this is the example of limiting principle. Ibig sabihin, police power can be, abused, it can be limited, 'di ba? But this is the writ of habeas corpus that I just want to emphasize here. Because when you say writ of habeas corpus, eto kasi, there's an suspension of this writ of habeas corpus during the martial law, no? So nagkaroon ng suspension nitong kakayahan na 'to o kapangyarihan or rights, no? It is the right of an individual cannot be imprisoned or held in custody inside the prison cell unless she has been brought before a court of law. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo puwedeng ikulong yung isang individual without due process of law na tinatawag natin. Kasi nung panahon ng martial law, 'di ba kahit sino na lang ay hinuhuli na suspects, 'di ba, in crimes or anything about the, rebellion of the government. So ito yung na-violate during the martial law, 'no? But now in, the exercise of the police power, this writ of habeas corpus is really important to practice what they said there, the liberty and property, life, liberty and property of the people. So siyempre dapat dumaan muna sa due process of law in the name of justice na tinatawag natin. So that is writ of habeas corpus, the rights of an individual to be, brought 'no, by, having a due process of law. Hindi lang puwede siyang ikulong agad, 'di ba, or, sampahan ng agad ng kaso unless hindi dumadaan sa due process of law. Alright, so next tayo. Pangalawa natin dito is the second inherent power of the state, which is the eminent domain. So when you say eminent domain, it's the power of expropriation. Okay, that's another term, power of expropriation. So when you say eminent domain, it is the inherent right of the state to take private property for public use. For example dito, sa paggawa ng mga public highways, ng bridges. For instance, may isang property na dun sa paggawa ng government ng tulay or ng, kalsada, maapektuhan siya, madadaanan siya. So magkakaroon ngayon ng negotiation between the government and the private owner na nagmamay-ari noong, partikular may property, may bahay, may business na masasagasaan ng paggawa ng kalsada. So that's what we call eminent domain, 'no? Having, but taking upon compensation binabayaran 'yun, na may kasunduang halaga, 'di ba? Hindi lang basta-basta puwede gigibain nila yung business or gigibain nila yung property na masasagasaan ng paggawa nila ng kalsada, 'no? But, there should be a equal or just compensation for that matters. Sabi nga dito, there are conditions for exercising eminent domain. So, these are as follows: adequacy of the compensation, pagkakasunduan nila kung magkano yung budget or money that will be allocated for the property being, destroyed or set upon by the government sa paggawa ng kanilang, public highways, ng mga infrastructures. Necessity of the taking, of course, for the public use, hindi lang basta-basta na tini-take 'yan, meron din yung mga conditions and, process 'no, public parks, public hospitals, but when it concerns about the public concerns of the government, hospital, school, public highways, bridges, and other infrastructures. So that's necessary, no, to take over that private property by the government. No, the sole purpose of the expropriation must be for public use, and of course, sumusunod pa rin yan sa due process. 'Di ba? Hindi lang basta-basta sila nagigibain yung property, but instead, there's an compensation with that. That's how power of eminent domain works. So the involvement of government in, taking private property rather, but having, just compensation, hindi yun dapat mawala, 'no? And, also, according to this, ito yung mga ibang constitutional basis, okay, na makikita niyo sa 1987 Constitution, 'no? In expropriation proceedings, just compensation is defined as the full and fair equivalent of the property. May halaga, 'di ba? Yung mga, kalsada sa highways, 'di ba, sa Dasma ang dami niyan, in other parts in, Cavite, 'no. The constitutional basis of exercise of eminent domain were written, if you're going to read those, 'no, Article 3, Section 1 of the Bill of Rights, yung binanggit ko nga kanina, the right to liberty, property, and, life, 'di ba, yung sa pag-practice ng due process. Article 3, Section 9 ng Bill of Rights pa din, and yan sa iba't ibang, industries, commercial areas, agricultural lands. So naka-state sa constitution natin yung pagdiin natin sa pagbibigay ng just compensation of the government to the private properties na maapektuhan. Okay? So, ito pinagdidiinan lang lahat natin dito yung full and fair equivalent to the property of the money or how much the market cost that property, no? And okay. And the literal and liberal meaning of public use. So when you say public use, class, is about, pag sinabing public use, palagi na lang public works, tulay, kalsada, ganyan-ganyan. But in our modern era or the modern time, the new concept is about public advantage, convenience, and benefit. So huwag natin masamain, ay kaya kami nagbabayad ng tax because of the pakinabang na nakukuha namin sa gobyerno. But instead, more on the public advantage or convenience and benefits. Diba? The Build the Build program of President Duterte and many other infrastructures being accomplished by this administration and other administrations, the MRT, LRT, the bridges connecting those cities that are being far from this the civilization, diba? Yung mga tulay talaga na ang layo, Mindoro, Bataan, Cavite, Manila, Laguna, lahat-lahat ng ano ng mga infrastructures, no, that being held, of course, for the benefits and convenience of the people to easily access and lessen the traffic. Diba? Yung traffic talaga yung number one, no? In EDSA and other traffic areas, traffic sa Metro Manila, in the NCR region. So they're very beneficial. Lessening time, the easy access to the roads and can be a shortcut. No? Mabilisang pagdaan lang. No? Hindi ka na gugugol pa ng ilang oras para sa pagtawid. But because of those infrastructures, it can be easy. The life can be easy with that. Because of the power of eminent domain. No? Sunod tayo. Okay, ito is the example. Okay. For the inherent powers of the state, okay, the last one is the taxation, the power of taxation. Sabi nga nila, the lifeblood of the government is taxes. Diba? Lifeblood. Without taxes, government cannot be function. Kasi umiikot lang naman yung pera. Diba? Umiikot lang yung pera ng mga tao. That can be gained from income tax, diba? Nakukuha, binabawas sa sahod. Or yung mga VAT naman, value added tax, which you can see that the receipt, pag kumain ka sa restaurant, pag namili ka sa grocery, the resibo, nandun yung value added tax. And also the bago lang, no, train law, no, the tax, what's the meaning of the tax reformation and in tax reform, acceleration and in what's that? Tax reform, acceleration and inclusion, no, that's the new law, Republic Act number was that 1963 or 19163? Just check the ano no, the law, no. Train law, ito naman kasi sa mga beverages, no, the other taxes, no, aside from EBAT, mula dun sa mga nakikita lang sa resibo, sa sin tax, yung sa sigarilyo, and other taxes involved. But this lifeblood as taxes, no, is the power of the state to assess and collect taxes. So the government has the access and the authority to collect taxes running by them, of course. And the institution being responsible for that is the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the BIR. Diba parang lahat ng nga ngayon is may tax. Diba? Lahat na lang ng bibili mo, lahat ng gagalawin mo is may tax, of course. Sabi nga nila, that's the lifeblood of our government. That's the lifeblood of the people. Umiikot lang kasi yung pera. And these taxes are being deducted depende sa kakayahan. Diba? May tinatawag kasi tayo na purpose of taxation. So mamaya i-define natin dito, ano ba yung diferensya ng, halimbawa, mas mataas yung sahod ng isang tao, yung isa naman mababa yung sahod niya. So parehas nga ba sila ng binabayaran tax? O nakadepende sa sahod nila yung binabayaran nilang tax? So may mga ganong issue. No, una sa lahat, unahin muna natin yung first purpose of taxation. First, we need taxation or the taxes to be collected to raise revenue for the people. Una na nga, sinabi ko, bumabalik din naman sa mga tao yung tax nila. No, nagiging sahod nila na yun. No? Military procurement, salary of government employees, and building infrastructure. Diba? So yun, tenured ka na pag, more on, magiging tenured ka pag nasa public, public offices ka. Diba? And they are using for, they are used for infrastructures. Diba? Convenience of the people, to raise revenue, to supply or to access what the people demands itself, di ba? So, ilan yun sa mga example. Bakit kailangan ng tax? Pangalawa, is to regulate inimical activities to the public welfare. Ito yung nabanggit ko kanina. So yan mga beverages na yan, 'di ba, nagkakaroon ng health problems, nagkakaroon ng, issues pagdating sa mga beverages, alcohol. So yung mga harmful ano yan, harmful products or harmful food, harmful beverages, they are being taxed by the government. So ang tawag nga dun ay sin tax, 'no. For example nga yung sa cigarette, dami ng ano, ng, naninigarilyo sa Pilipinas. 'Di ba dati ang mura lang ng sigarilyo, ngayon nga dahil sa dumadami na yun, um, mas nagmamahal yung isang sigarilyo. Ito imagine, if, familiar ₱2 lang dati parang ngayon ₱10 na o 7 ang isang, cigarette, 'di ba? So ilan 'yan sa mga pagbabago na ginawa ng gobyerno for the public welfare kasi naman talaga yung concern nila is for the general welfare of the people, 'no? So yun yung ilang ginagamit sa tax para siguro ma-avoid yung, pag, paninigarilyo or, paggamit nitong mga products na ito. Ikatlo is for the local industries to protect. For instance is the taripa. Tinatawag natin taripa sa kalakalan. Nagkakaroon ng taripa sa mga ini-import o ini-export na produkto ng Pilipinas. 'Di ba? Nagkakaroon ng, lahat naman kasi may tax, eh, 'di ba kahit sa ano, yung sa bumibili ka sa online shopping, 'no, may Foodpanda, GrabFood, meron na ngayon silang tax, eh. Parang ₱3 ba yung kaltas dun sa delivery fee, 'no, and dun sa mga online shopping, Lazada, Shopee, ilan 'yan. Nagtataksa rin sila ngayon. Sabi ko nga sa inyo lahat may tax, 'di ba, for the convenience nga. So tariffs nga is being imposed to make locally made products competitive with imported ones. Lalo na ngayon sa Pilipinas. For instance, the rice tariffication law, 'di ba? The rices in the Philippines are being taxed or there's an increase in tax for that, 'di ba? For the import and export. Well, we know that we are an agricultural country and sometimes the Philippines import rices from the other countries, 'no? So ayan, ilan siguro 'yan sa mga, pinatupad ng gobyerno to protect the local industries, 'no, for the taxes to be used effectively. Okay, so ilan 'to sa mga basis natin about sa taxes. Gano'n pa din naman ang kailangan natin. The Article 3 Section 1, kailangan dumaan pa rin sa due process, even taxes, 'no? And eto na nga yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, kung paano nga ba yung ginagawa kapag mas mataas yung sweldo ng isa at mababa naman yung isa. So, obviously, hindi sila magkaparehas ng tax na binabayaran. Una, ito nga yung tinatawag natin, that according to the law or in our constitution, there should be an equitable or progressive taxation. When we say progressive taxation, 'no, the tax rate increases as the tax base increases. So, kung mas mataas yung income mo, mas mataas yung tax mo. Kung mababa yung sahod mo, mababa naman yung tax mo. Kaya nga progressive. There's an equal, deduction of taxes in the income tax, 'di ba? Pagdating sa income tax, 'di ba, mas mataas ang halimbawa, mas mataas ang sahod ng doktor kaysa sa mga, mas mataas ang abogado, doktor, gano'n. So, definitely equitable lang 'yun. Hindi puwedeng mas mataas mababa yung sahod ng doktor, mataas yung tax niya. There should be an equal, yun nga sabi nga progressive tax, okey? Alright. So that's it. That's very short, no? I hope you get it, no? It's just a basis, no? Three inherent powers of the states. Again, the police power. Second is the eminent domain or the power of expropriation. And the last one is the power of taxation. So ilan yan sa mga konsepto na meron tayo sa ating konstitusyon and in the Philippines. Okay, so thank you for listening to this video tutorial.